Well, Bitcoin has a rather large problem. And it's something that they've been working on for a long time. I'm going to read you a little bit right here about Visa. Now, you know, Bitcoin is used for transactions. You send money back and forth with Bitcoin. I'm going to read you here a little bit about Visa. Visa handles, on an average, of about, this is during a typical day, right? It has 2,000 transactions every second. Now, that's in the whole world, Visa. 2,000 transactions every second. So what they call those is TPS. They're called TPSs. So it's 2,000 a second, if you can remember that. So 2,000 is the magic number. That's on average what Visa has to deal with. 2,000 per second. TPS, 2,000. And it says in a peak daily rate, when they're at peak, Visa and like mid-afternoon and 4,000 TPS. And it can go as high as 56,000 to cover it. So that the transactions don't get stalled. And so that you go to use your Visa card and they say, hey, you know, your transaction's been stalled. You can't make a transaction right now. The whole thing's frozen because it's exceeded the capacity of Visa. It doesn't happen. And if you were to go and that were to happen to you, you would be very disappointed because you want to make a transaction. You can't because the network's frozen because there's too many transactions right now. It just wouldn't work. Well, what's going on with Bitcoin? Now, remember that number, that Visa, on average, 2,000 transactions per second. 2,000 TPS. Bitcoin right now is restricted to a sustained rate of 7 TPS. Now, can't you see what's happened? When Bitcoin was small, and there wasn't many people knowing about it and stuff, they were fine with 7 TPS, whereas Visa has 2,000 TPS. So they were working with 7 TPS. But now that the Bitcoin network is growing exponentially larger and people are starting to use it for transactions and stuff, they're having to wait sometimes 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 hours to get a transaction through. And that's because they're still running on only 7 TPS, whereas Visa's running with 2,000 to 4,000 TPS. Right? Now this is where the problem's going to come in. Is right now, because Bitcoin price is surging up, going up like a rocket to the moon, all these people are going to come in on Bitcoin. Right? And how they've been dealing with this problem up till now, because of the fact that they only have 7 TPS, how Bitcoin's been dealing with it is they've been letting people pay more money to get your transaction through. So what's happening is, if you pay more money to get your transaction through, then you get put on the top of the heap of who's going to get the transaction put through. They will let you through the gate first. It's almost like if people were lined up out in front of a club, and there was a bouncer there, and he was letting people in through the gate to go inside the club. And if some guy come up and he give the bouncer an extra $100 tip, hey, you can come in, buddy, ahead of all the rest. Come on through. And that's what's happening with the transactions on the Bitcoin network right now. If you want to get your transaction through, you put a big tip on it, and it'll go through. But if you're just going to go with the standard fee, you're going to wait 12 hours, maybe 24 hours. Who knows how long you're going to have to wait. And as this network grows even bigger, then there's going to be more and more people putting more and more money to get theirs through. Right? And a small tip ain't going to do it anymore. You're going to have to add an extra $100 to get them to take your Bitcoin and move it. See what's happening? You're going to have to put an extra $100 worth of Bitcoin on there just to get them to even look at your transaction. Otherwise, I can see maybe 6 months from now you having to wait 4 days or whatever, or 3 days for your transaction to get through if you don't have the... And it might not even get through. What ends up happening, from what I understand, is after a certain amount of time goes by, if your transaction doesn't get through, and it's sitting there waiting to get through, right? Then they send the money back to your Bitcoin wallet by default. So now say you want something, say you find something on the internet you want to buy with your Bitcoin. Something really good, you know, like, so it's at a bargain price. And so you go to send them the Bitcoin, you're saying, oh, I really want that, whatever it is, right? And you don't include the extra transaction fee, the big tip, in other words, the extra $100 to get your transaction through. You just want to send your transaction through. Say the thing you're buying only costs $50, and by that time, say 6 months from now, it's going to take $100 to get your transaction through. So you decide, no, I'm just going to, this is a bargain, I want it now, so you send it through. So you go to send the money to the person that you're sending it to, and the money just sits there waiting to be verified by the network. And waiting and waiting and waiting. And the person on the other end, they're waiting for your money. And they're waiting and they're waiting and they're waiting. After about 4 days goes by, the network sends it back to your wallet again. This is the kind of things they're going to face. There's going to come a certain point when the Bitcoin network grows to a certain size where it just is completely going to show up that the Bitcoin network is not scalable. Everybody's going to see that it's not scalable, right? Because they're only running on 7 TPS, 7 transactions per second. And it's only the guys that pay the most that are going to get those 7 transactions per second through. Right? And sooner or later, all of a sudden, when an awful lot of people jump into Bitcoin, all of a sudden this is going to become blaringly obvious. And this scalability issue is going to come back to haunt Bitcoin because it's not scalable. It's not like Visa. Visa's got 2,000 transactions per second minimum. And Bitcoin's running on 7. And Visa's got 2,000. You know what's going to happen? All of a sudden, when this Bitcoin is going to be into this parabolic rise in price, and then they're going to realize that the network doesn't really work properly, all of a sudden, there's going to be a giant sell-off on Bitcoin. And when that occurs, that's just going to load the network with transactions, because in order to get out of Bitcoin, they got to sell them and they got to move them through the network. There's going to be a bottleneck. You've heard it here first, boys. Unless they can fix this this issue of scalability and fix it soon, and it seems like these guys at Bitcoin argue about everything and never get anything done. They argue over every little thing that they're going to do to the Bitcoin, but they never really get anything done. So they're still stuck back on this seven transactions a second, and it's getting worse and worse because there's more and more people hopping into the Bitcoin network now. I can see a disaster coming. Now, when this disaster occurs, what do you think is going to happen? You got all this money invested in Bitcoin, tremendous money, and they're going to want to move it out fast because the Bitcoin price is going to be dropping fast. Where do you think that money's going to go if they move it out? I'll tell you, boys, where it's going to go. It's going to go into the alternate cryptocurrencies, the ones that are more scalable and the ones that look best. That's where the money's going to go when it comes out of Bitcoin. Because there's not that many. There's also going to be a bottleneck, see, because there's not that many merchants yet that take Bitcoin, not that many places you can spend Bitcoin, right? And converting it into cash is difficult. And so it's much easiest way for these people to deal with Bitcoin is to convert it into an alternate cryptocurrency. And this is where the big money's going to go. It's going to convert into alternate cryptocurrencies when Bitcoin goes down. And the currencies that are going to take the most heat and are going to go up the most when Bitcoin brings all of its money out into these other currencies is the alt currencies that are scalable. Because the people are going to say, they're going to know about the scalability issue. They're going to bring it to the fore, and that's what killed Bitcoin. And they're going to look to the alt currencies that have already solved the scalability issue. You know, and believe me, there's ones out there right now who are using multiple multiple chains, multiple blockchains, and they've solved the scalability issue that Bitcoin didn't have solved when it was the first one that was developed way back in 2009. Now, years later, they've solved the scalability issue. These other cryptocurrencies should be the #1 currency, but they're not, because Bitcoin has a first mover advantage over them. I think that first mover advantage and that big name, Bitcoin, everybody in the world is starting to know Bitcoin. That big name and first mover advantage is only going to take them so far, because they haven't solved the major issue of scalability. If they don't get onto themselves, and get onto themselves soon, solve this issue, a measly little 7 TPS transfers a second, that just ain't going to cut it. Not when Visa's running typically around 2,000 or 3,000 TPS. You know, if they're going to take over from Visa, they're going to have to get their act together and bring that way up. I mean, even if they double the size of the block size, it's still not going to bring them up. Maybe 7 to 14. What's that going to do? They still need 2,000 or 4,000 TPS to actually run a successful network in the whole world. And this is what they're going to be forced to do, and it just ain't going to cut it, boys. Just ain't going to cut it. So we see what's coming down the pike. You got to be careful investing in Bitcoin. It's going to surge up until it hits the scalability issue, and then she's going to fall. Myself, I'm preparing for this. I'm into the alts. I'll tell you right up front. And I'm into the alts that look the best to me. And I'll tell you which ones look the best to me. The big 3. I love them. Ethereum looks great. Dash looks great. Monero looks good. And so does Litecoin. And of those 4 that I just named, Litecoin is probably showing the most potential for me in my mind, because it's the one that hasn't went up yet. It's staying down cheap, relatively cheap in comparison. Litecoin should be up about $100 or more per coin, and they're only still in the 20s. I mean, what a bargain! Now these other coins like Ethereum, they've already busted a move upwards. You know, Ethereum's up over $200. Dash is already busted a move upwards. But Litecoin, boys, look at Litecoin. They're down too cheap. They're really cheap. Dash is actually on the cheap side too. Dash should be closer to the price of Ethereum. Anyway, enough talking. I'll give you the idea of what's going on. It's probably best to diversify and not be all into Bitcoin. Diversify into the alts, because this is where the money's going to go when the scalability issue becomes to the fore. And I don't think it's too far away, because they're pouring into the Bitcoin network right now, and the network is having more and more difficulty in the transactions. If you try a transaction recently on the Bitcoin network, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. You either add extra money to it, in other words, a big tip, or you just sit on your hands and wait and wait and wait for your transaction to get through. Anyway, thank you for listening. Like and subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next article. Bye.